Well, hello and good morning, everybody. Hope you're ready for a webinar. We are going to be talking about FX Cad today, specifically FX Cad 2019. It's a very interesting topic. We were first approached in 2011 by Autodesk, wondering if we'd be interested in joining their what they call their OEM division, basically having access to the AutoCAD engine to repackage it for companies exactly like ours. There's other ones. As a notable one that does a plumbing, this sort of interior plumbing and like fire sprinkler plumbing sort of a thing. And so they had made an AutoCAD add-on, and then they're able to bundle the AutoCAD engine with their add-on. And anyway, so they kind of approached us and wanted to know if we'd be interested in joining this OEM division to get access to the AutoCAD engine to be able to offer to sell that directly to our users along with our really cool plugin. And so that became FX Cad. 2019 is the 8th release of FX Cad. Every year we try to just push the envelope a bit farther in terms of what we can get out of it, what we can tweak a little more. Always just as Autodesk either adds or removes things from the basic AutoCAD. We're always scrambling to keep up with them and just make sure that, either we basically approve or disapprove of little changes they make, and sometimes we wrap their functionality, sometimes we remove features, you name it, runs the gamut. And the end result is this incredible product of FX Cad. So we're going to show you what 2019 looks like. A very quick housekeeping item is that Q&A button. Please note where that Q&A button is. That stands for questions and answers. Feel free to type in any questions. I'll get them answered and get them routed over to Amanda to answer. We should be able to get to a lot of questions because we know there's going to be a lot. And otherwise, this session is being recorded, so know that it will be available for you. So I'm done with my babbling. I will get this handed on over to Amanda.
Thank you, Jeremiah, and thanks everybody for coming today. We're going to talk a lot about FX Cad. So basically, really big kind of announcement on FX Cad, and if you're watching this live or in a few days, you might notice that it's not available right now, but it will be arriving in July. So we are kind of preempting that release with this webinar so that you guys can be on the ball as soon as it's released, and we will be announcing it in our newsletter once it's released. Again, my name is Amanda Berry. I'm a landscape architect from Canada, around Toronto. I'm also a usage technician here in Land Effects, and I'm actually involved in creating all of this. So we're making the CAD we always wanted in our offices with FX Cad 2019 and all of the FX Cad releases actually. One that's reliable, has the tools we need handy, and is in the right place to make the design office's budget more profitable. So it takes a lot of hours from Jer, from myself, Bennett and Forrest to get the customization perfect, as well as everybody else in our office to test it to make sure that it's all perfect for you before we release it out to you. And those are hours your office doesn't need to spend on all of this customization, making it great. You can just install it and use it. So today, we're going to go over the things that have been added coming from 2018 and also coming from AutoCAD. And for those considering using FX Cad for the first time, a little bit about what makes this AutoCAD platform special and incredibly useful to you. So again, one more housekeeping item. General announcement, we announce it in all our newsletters every year, so you're probably used to it. We support the latest 5 versions of AutoCAD and FX Cad, and that's in order to keep everything fresh and so that we can add new items to land effects that aren't necessarily supported in old AutoCAD versions. So just kind of letting you know, those on 2014 still this year, you do have until December 31st to upgrade it. As of January 1st, 2019, we will no longer be supporting 2014. So you'll know that upgrades or renewing or upgrading your, or what am I saying? Getting the updates, sorry, for land effects after that point for 2014, you will encounter problems. So this is fair warning on that. And that applies to other versions, AutoCAD, Civil, Map, all of that as well. So the first thing here is, what is FX Cad? If you're new to it, if you haven't experienced it yet, you want to try a trial, some important things to know about it. It is only for LandFX users. It does require an active LandFX license. So if you are an existing LandFX client, this is great for you. If you are considering getting LandFX and using that, also great for you. Just know that going forward, you do need to keep up your renewals of your LandFX support in order to keep this going. Even though it is a perpetual license of AutoCAD and not a subscription license of AutoCAD, it is a command limited version of AutoCAD, and it's what's called an OEM that Jeremiah kind of explained at the beginning, which makes it a little bit similar to LT in that it's a little bit command limited. It doesn't support add-ons onto it other than LandFX. So if you're coming from LT, this is a great move for you. But it's also, unlike AutoCAD LT, it is sold and supported by us. You get our tech support with your AutoCAD. If you've been using AutoCAD and you go through our tech support, you might know that at a certain point, if it is actually an AutoCAD issue and not a LandFX issue, that's where our support wouldn't necessarily cover that. But if you have FX Cad, totally covers it. So you can get that reliability of being able to call us or email us. It does require us to change the name. That's why it's called FX Cad and not AutoCAD, but it is an actual AutoCAD genuine engine, and I'll show you that as well. It's also only on PC. I am actually running on a Mac right now, so you'll see that you can run it on a Mac through Parallels. I'm using Parallels, so you can definitely do that. And let's see, so this is our technical support here. And just excuse me during this webinar, I do have a cold, so I might need to take a few cough breaks every once in a while.
That's when I'll chime in with a knock knock joke, right?
Oh, I know, right? I thought I'd be over it by now. It's that time of year. But with this is our support team right here. Jeremiah, myself, Paul, Bennett, Jake, as well as many others. We're getting new photos for this slide. But again, you can give us a call. It's really, really important, and it's a key feature of FX Cad. One sec. There we go. So key things that you're probably wondering about: what can FX Cad 2019 do and not do? So it can't, like I said before, run add-ons, auto lists, those sorts of things. So if you're used to that, you might want to determine if maybe LandFX can do that instead for you. It does do, you can geolocate plans, but it doesn't have access to those live maps because that is an online AutoCAD 360 thing. So we do have a great documentation on how to geolocate plans that includes steps on how to bypass that live map limitation. So you can't do some add-ons like Carlson is a big one that people ask us about, or AutoTurn. If you don't use them, then you don't really need them. You're probably just fine using LandFX and the tools in there. It also doesn't do any rendering or 3D. And again, Autodesk 360, and again, making sure we drive this point home, it does require a LandFX license. That's planting FX, irrigation FX, needs one of those two. It can open and save any version of DWG, DXF, DGN, all of that. It can save DWTs as well. And since it's the latest version, 2019, it can do that 2018 file version as well. You can insert anything, basically raster images. You can geolocate plans. You can import, export PDFs. You can also view Civil 3D, which we will show, and other proxy objects. And you can use any other AutoCAD command you regularly use. We'll go over the ones that might not be in there. Those are mostly the 3D commands. And one second. And you can also use the sheet set manager, no problem. And then you have that 3D connection, right, to SketchUp right within FX Cad through LandFX, no problem. So you don't even really need that 3D capability in AutoCAD. Most people, like myself, don't even use it. You can also definitely customize the interface. So we have customized the interface extensively. You can go ahead and continue doing that, no problem. So let's go along and go into the cost of FX Cad. It is the same price as it has been before, $19.95 purchase. And as of this year, it is now on $500 yearly upgrades for if you upgrade every year. So if you're just going from 2018 to 2019, it's a $500 upgrade. For any other year after that, it is $9.95 to upgrade. And you might be saying, hey, well, that makes sense to maybe skip a few years. And if you're looking for a budget, we'll kind of go over those figures as well to see if that's exactly what you want to do. But the answer is yes, absolutely. Absolutely, you can skip years if you want to. I don't necessarily suggest it. We'll go through some of the limitations that you would encounter if you do skip years, but that might be something that you need to do. Just be aware that after the last two versions of AutoCAD, there is a $50 legacy fee activation required for a reinstall of, for instance, once 2019 is released, you can reinstall 2019 and 2018, no problem. After that, 2017 and older, if you do need to reinstall it, there is a $50 activation fee. Those who have gone through it, it's not a big deal. It happens very quickly. So it's not really a roadblock. Just be aware of that if you are looking to skip a few years of upgrades. And that's, you will need to also keep up your LandFX renewal support. Remember, they are two different licenses, your FX Cad and your LandFX. And this is compared to the AutoCAD subscription license, which as of last week when I made these slides was $14.96 annual cost based on a 2-year contract subscription. And you would obviously, if you're using LandFX, you'd still have your LandFX renewal and support on top of that too. So the LandFX renewal and support doesn't really change the prices at all. Let's look a bit more in depth into that cost comparison. So we've got a 5-year budget laid out right here. If you were to basically go with the top tier of FX Cad, which is you're upgrading every single year to the latest version. So next year you go to 2020, the year after you go to 2021. Each of those years you're going to be doing a $500 upgrade, which if you look at the end price compared to the price of going to full AutoCAD in order to run LandFX on full AutoCAD, because again, LT does not run LandFX, it has no add-ons allowed, you are saving a significant amount of money, and it ends up working out to, I believe it's around $800 a year on a 5-year plan. And then after that, you're continuing to go down until you're basically paying $500 a year. And that's your annual budget for your AutoCAD license, which can be a really big savings for a small company. If you need to go for an even heavier budget option, you can skip those years of upgrade, and so down below we have the option of if you do need to skip an entire 4 years, you do save about $1,000 that way. So you can choose. I really, really would not recommend owning a CAD license that's 5 years old. You are missing out on a lot. If you think back to, it would now be 2014. There was a lot that happened between 2014 and now, including so many things that affect your daily drafting. So I do recommend not going that far along. So let's talk a little bit about who should switch to FX CAD. And I kind of wanted to lay out a few scenarios about who would really, really benefit from it. And for the most part, it's if you're a LandFX user, of course, you're probably going to be able to benefit from using FX CAD. You could be a sole practitioner. You're used to using AutoCAD LT, or you used AutoCAD full AutoCAD without any add-ons. This would be a really great switch for you to reduce costs, to get the right support that you need. And then for mid to large size firms, for instance, I was in a firm where we used Civil in our firm, and we only had about 2 licenses of Civil, and the rest we had as FX CAD, and it really helped reduce our budget. It's also really good for anybody who prefers to update, wait a bit between updates, and you want to remain on that perpetual license instead of a subscription. But again, you do have that option if you do upgrade every year, as if you're on a subscription. It's still really budget friendly that way. It also helps you stay up to date at that reduced cost, with the security of knowing you'll know when it's released and compatible, and you know that when it's released, it's going to be compatible with LandFX. And I cannot stress that support enough.
And I guess I would add the, that first point maintains to all of those. So, when we say anybody who prefers to update every 2 to 3 years, who is also a dedicated LandFX user. It is, we do not just offer FX CAD to someone off the street. Certainly, we do get a lot of people internationally who say like, oh, I want to get this FX CAD, and we've never heard of them. And like, no, it's only available to LandFX customers. So you kind of make that LandFX decision first, and then consider if you want to also be using FX CAD with it.
Yeah, that is a great point. It's really important to know that this is really just a great thing that we've been able to secure for our LandFX customers. So one big question that a lot of people have is, if you're already using FX CAD and you already know about all the advantages of it and you want to stick with FX CAD, why should you upgrade from between 2014 to 2018 up to 2019? And some of the key points that you can take to your upper management if you need to justify the upgrade, you basically, by upgrading every year especially, you have the ability to kind of roll with the punches. Not that they're punches, but you know what I mean, when every year there's a little bit of changes over time, and then over time you get just a lot of changes if you have to go from if somebody's coming from 2014 to 2019. It's going to be a really big change, and you're going to have a bit of time to have to really get used to that. Whereas if you're coming from 2018 to 2019, there's only a few really great changes that you're going to be so stoked about being able to use now. It's a really different dynamic upgrading more frequently. It's also easier to send and receive files from other firms. So 2018 and 2019, you're able to use that new 2018 file type that a lot of engineers and architects are now using, because they're all on subscription. So they've all upgraded their firms up to either 2018 or 2019. So 2019 uses that. It's still the 2018 file year right now, but as you kind of get into this, eventually they're going to be upgrading that file year as well. It's also easier on the budget over time, like we talked about. You get those new features each year, which are great to be able, that affect just your daily drafting, and we'll kind of go through those. Also something, because you're getting all that great support, you not only have the same version of CAD that all of our training videos are using. So these webinars, all of our power tips, they're all going to be using FX CAD 2019. And all of our technical support staff is also using 2019. So your staff who might need support from us, they're going to have the same version. It's going to be a lot faster to be able to help them that way. Obviously, we can still help people with older versions, but since it's a different interface, we need to, even for me, it's hard for me to remember everything that was there in 2014. And it also encourages your office to keep up with computer maintenance. If you have a yearly budget and you stick to it, it's really easy to schedule those things out. So let's go through a few of the differences. And the first kind of difference that we're going to go through is the installation. So with FX CAD, the installation is actually much, much faster. I timed it. I had to install it quite a few times actually for this webinar to test things out. It clocked in at under 10 minutes, including a restart of my computer. I also had to install AutoCAD a few times, and that was about an hour. And I didn't even install some of the things on it because it was taking too long to download. So that's a really big factor in it. I know that a lot of people are like, well, it's going to be a whole morning to be able to upgrade the, or maybe even if you have a large office, a whole day to upgrade the whole office to a new year of AutoCAD. FX CAD, it takes under 10 minutes per computer is basically what I found on my computer. So, I mean, it's really easy to upgrade in that sense. It's not that big event where it's downtime for all of your office. So at the very beginning of the install, it looks pretty much exactly the same. Different graphics, obviously, so that you're aware you're installing FX CAD. And then as we go through, you can start to see that AutoCAD's starting to try and install quite a few things. Here, I unchecked recap because it was just taking too long to install on my computer. I ended up not doing it. I've seen quite a few webinars on recap. It looks really, really great. I do want to give it a try. But for the average user of AutoCAD, you're not going to need to use it. You probably would only need to use it for a few computers if you're going to use it. And that recap kind of goes into using drone footage for surveys. So it's a very advanced item. You can see with land effects, the installation is pretty slim. It's just FX CAD 2019 and then hooking it up to your existing land effects installation. Or if you're running a trial or installing land effects and FX CAD for the first time, it's going to install that land effects installation as well. They are two different installations. But after the fact, you find out that AutoCAD installed a whole lot more than what you thought it was going to, including an app manager, apps plugin, performance reporting tool, desktop app. What are all these things? We're going to find out, whereas FX CAD just installed FX CAD and hooked it up to LandFX, just like it said it was going to do. And once you start going in, you start seeing all these things that just got installed onto your computer. These are both on completely fresh computers. So I did, my computer runs virtual machines. I make brand new ones. This has nothing else installed on it other than AutoCAD. And this is the result after installing FX CAD versus AutoCAD. So you're slimming down your computers. You're not using so much, as many resources. And we also strip out that desktop app manager, which actually runs. These are the same kind of scenario where the task manager says you have no running apps. You're not running AutoCAD or FX CAD. But if you expand the task manager, you see that there's this AutoCAD desktop app that's running even if you haven't even started AutoCAD. It just runs, kind of logging your performance and use of it. So we have stripped that out. So again, you're freeing up some resources on your computer. So kind of moving on from there, we'll go into after you kind of installed. Actually, we'll kind of look at some things. Here's a list. We are not going to go through all of them, but just so that you can see everything that has improved since last year. I'm going to kind of touch on a few of these so that you can see exactly what they are. But let's go into it. So you can see here, after this installation of FX Cad, I actually have 2018 and 2019 on this computer together. You can see in my C drive program files, it's actually Autodesk. It installs just like AutoCAD with all of the files. If you go into your user files, they're all in there too, your registry files. It is a genuine version of AutoCAD. It's basically what I'm driving the point home on here. And if we go into it, you can see it looks a little bit different. So we kind of set up some of the settings for you to use. And one moment. So one big question that we have with people who have just downloaded the latest version of FX Cad 28 or 2019 or last year 2018 is how do I migrate my settings? I want the exact same setup as I had last year, or they're coming from 2014 and they want to keep their settings, they want the toolbars, they want all of that. First, I will say you can migrate your settings. So you can just go down here, go into your AutoCAD 2019, and there you can see you can migrate from a previous release. I'm not going to do it right now. I have the program open. It's going to take a while to close it down and all of that. But just know that if you need to go through this process, you can. We actually have over here a Migrate AutoCAD FX Cad settings page, and just go through the steps and you'll be able to migrate. I have tested it out on this. It doesn't come in absolutely perfectly. We are using the AutoCAD migrate settings. It will bring in, for instance, like light version, dark version. It will bring in your ribbons and a lot of your preferences, including like what shows down in the bottom bar here. But one big point that I kind of want to make is that I really don't think you should be bringing in your settings from previous versions. And let me make the argument for that. For instance, this year, there have been some new tools in general added, like if we go into view, some of these new view tools. And if you bring in your old ribbons or your old toolbars, that is not on there. So you definitely need to keep that in mind while you're doing that. Also, if you say bring in your old shortcuts, you are overwriting the shortcuts in your acad.pgp file. You're overwriting the shortcuts in your old acad.pgp file. And that can be a little detrimental, again, with new shortcuts added for new commands added to AutoCAD. So let's look at actually a way to, if you go over here to the Manage ribbon, go to Edit Aliases, and I'm actually going to go down to this actual Edit Aliases PGP. You can open up that PGP file, scroll all the way down, grab your user-defined aliases from your FX Cad 2018 or older, copy them all, and do the same thing, open this up in FX Cad 2019, paste them all in. That way you get to keep all of these shortcuts that might have gotten added to 2019. So that's a way to keep what you had before while being able to embrace the updates that you're going to be able to now use in the new version. So kind of going from there, you can also, I mentioned that you can open, say, a civil drawing. And I actually have, if we go over here, I have this grading plan, and you might recognize it from the grading plan that I actually created in AutoCAD Civil in my BIM webinar a few months ago. And I can actually open this in FX Cad 2019. I'm not in Civil at all. And it's going to show that we have all of these civil objects, but as you can see, I can also see all of the civil objects as well. If I were to, there is a setting though, when you first open up FX Cad 2019, it won't show. We do have a documentation page on how to properly show it. And I actually had to use one of the settings in that page to save into the civil drawing in order to show civil objects in non-civil 3D programs. But basically, I also had to go into my options and change in this open and save path, this object detect to command invoke, object detect and command invoke, while normally we recommend sticking with command invoke. So once you've kind of got it in here, I still do recommend if this came from a civil engineer and not from inside your office, you should go ahead and explode this down to regular AutoCAD objects. I'm going to just close that up because that one uses quite a few resources. And we can kind of go into our ribbon. So you can see with this old version, let's go over to the home ribbon to start to try and compare some of the changes. A lot of these changes were made in FX Cad 2016, and we've basically just been bringing it along into 2018. And what we've done in 2018 is actually even improved on it. So I'm just including here for reference some of the original AutoCAD, because somebody in your office might be coming from an office that used the full AutoCAD before. So we have streamlined the entire ribbon, making it all large buttons with everything kind of centered together. And we've also added in here, if we want to say, some changes that we did from FX Cad 2018 is we actually added the array back in here. But while we did that, we also pulled in the FX Cad or the land effects array and mirror tools as well. And we did this for very specific reasons. The reasons that we pulled array out of here before was because people were using it on land effects objects. And the thing with AutoCAD array is that it doesn't actually copy data correctly, and it doesn't make actual copies of objects. So the land effects array system copies the data properly and gives the objects new data IDs so that the system can recognize them as different plants or benches or anything like that. So that's why we've added it back here now with land effects stuff. We've also added in here the FX hatch over top of the AutoCAD hatch, so new users to FX Cad in your office won't accidentally start using AutoCAD hatch without realizing that there's a better alternative of FX hatch that works with scale. Like if I try and use FX hatch right now, I get access to all of these hatches saved in here. Again, if you know land effects, you know that you can save in your own hatches into here as well. I can basically choose any hatch in here at all, like say a paving hatch, say okay, and now it's saying, hey, you've chosen something that needs to know the plot scale. Do you want to set that plot scale now? I say yes. I'm just going to set this to 1 inch equals 20 feet. Say okay. And I'm just going to draw that. And it's scaled to 1 inch equals 20 feet for decimal feet drawn for the size of this hatch. So that's really, really important to be able for, especially new people going into your office and using, who might not be familiar with land effects, to be able to recognize that and know that there's a better way using land effects scale.
And if I could jump in and maybe give you a chance to sip a little tea too, but also as you can see, I mean, our general goals with the ribbon, you know, it's continued every year, but overall you can see, look here at the top of the screen, comparing that home ribbon to the stock AutoCAD ribbon. As Amanda mentioned, you know, we wanted large buttons predominantly, but you notice we don't have the little drop down arrow or the little so-called crow's foot arrow on any of those ribbon panels. We feel that's bad form. And so across all ribbons, we do not have the crow's feet. We do not have the little drop down, because our philosophy is the ribbon needs to be usable, needs to be navigable. So you can just simply go from ribbon to ribbon, from panel to panel, and easily see all tools that are available without having anything hidden. That's what we very much like about the ribbon. So it requires us to go through it completely. And a key one of note is, maybe if Amanda wants to click on the move drop down, is for instance, Moco Row.
Yep.
So Moco Row is technically an Express tool. And so we have pulled that from the Express uh, ribbon. Why is it only an Express? It should be with Move and Copy, where it's more intuitive. So you still have Express tools. Express tools are still installed, but we've kind of pulled the ones that do apply elsewhere and integrated them in. So really, we've just, very much making the AutoCAD ribbon as usable as possible. And of course, one last final note is we do still include the stock AutoCAD ribbons. So if you'd rather start with theirs and customize it yourself, you're welcome to. If you'd rather just pull in your previous settings from a former version, you're welcome to do that as well. But we give you kind of those 3 different options, but we very much are gearing this FX CAD to be usable out of the box.
Yep. That's exactly the point here. So if we go over to insert, we've also added in, sorry about that. We've also added in some more FX CAD objects, and some that you might not have, you definitely haven't seen before. They've actually been quote unquote secret keyboard commands. They're not that secret. They're on our documentation pages. They've been available for a while, but now what we've decided, they haven't really had a great place in the FX ribbons up here. So we decided that we can start putting them into the AutoCAD ribbons in FX CAD. And so you have here now this import CSV. People keep asking us, is there a way to import CSV? Yes, there is. And I believe we actually now have a power tip on how to use this, as well as extensive documentation. So have at it. It is a really, really powerful tool that a lot of people are already loving, those who've discovered it. We've also got over here FX text to attribute, which is one of the essential things in order to do things like customize the planting callouts, anything like that. As well as we've got the things from last year in here, FX attach, all of that. And annotate, we've added into the text tools some new things like delete fonts, as well as we have our FX text manager. All of these things, as well as, like Jeremiah said, some things that just plain make sense, like some express tools down in here. And then we also have, if we go over into view, we've added our UCS in here. So that, again, somebody new to the office, new to Land Effects, sees this and starts wondering, is there a better way to do this than not using the Land Effects UCS like I did before, which is a huge hassle compared to Land Effects UCS. Going in here, we added reload all line types. A lot of people have been able to use that. And I do want to express here, because it was just introduced in 2018, but we have this cleanup panel here in the manage ribbon, which has been great for a lot of people understanding how to properly clean drawings. I don't know how many times I've had to say that a purge, audit, and del rag apps is not going to totally clean up your drawing. You need to go through the whole process or use Nuke. So this includes some links to documentation right in here that you can open and have a look at that. And our regular output hasn't actually changed that much. But if you go in here and you can kind of see how it's changed from here. In the old manage ribbon, you didn't have any of that. You had a whole lot of stuff that you didn't actually use. I know I didn't use them. And we've streamlined a lot of things to make it just, again, easier to use. We've also gone down here and added to our quick access toolbar. And you can see the things that we've added. We have our old favorites that we added last year, including this great drop down for your arrangement. But we've also added some essentials like break at point. I use break on a regular basis, and I'm always having to kind of click, 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 click around it because I only just want to break one point and like break a single line just in two without having to remove a bit in between. Well, that's what break at point is. I could just break that in, and now it's instantly two without that gap in between. I found that so handy while I was drafting a drawing for a webinar. Also having hatch to back and text to front right here along with explode and X hair angle. Also in here in FX Cad, we haven't changed anything in terms of, I showed you that PGP before. If we go over into, manage, and we go to edit aliases, and actually, you know what, I'm just gonna pull up our web page on it because I have it up here. We added these shortcuts in here to make things a lot similar or a lot easier to manage, including like options as 0, 0 right by your right hand, SS for select similar, QQ for Q select I now can't do without, as well as all these great shortcuts for land effects commands like that X hair angle again, just XX like that. These are all included in 2019 as well. And again, you can always add in your own. But if you go in here and you're like, okay, I really, really, really want my array to be just out here where I can see it, you can always go into your CUI editor, open that up and start go into your ribbon, go into your panels, go into that panel and just bring that out. And we have a whole documentation, even with a short Giphy video for you to follow along with on how to do all that to rearrange this how you might want it to be once you have it installed. So we've kind of compared the ribbons. Oh, I wanted to kind of show some things like this property controls panel. We don't necessarily always use it, so you might find in some webinars that we might remove it. We actually made it its own outside of the properties so that what you can actually do now in here, under show panels, you can unclick property controls. You can just hide it for a little while in here if you don't have the space to show it and you don't feel you need it because you're like me and you just keep your properties panel open all of the time. Just kind of clean up your space, little things like that, trying to make the whole experience a lot easier for you. We covered all of the land effect stuff that we showed. We also have in here in our layer properties manager, if I actually open up layer properties manager, and I'm just going to do a really quick in here, FXRef. And I am going to grab, I will grab really quick out of my tester. Let's say I'll just, sure, I'll go to my Imperial and grab that base and just FXRef that right into here. There we go. If you haven't used FXRef, you really need to try it. It's a lot easier in terms of just seeing what you're able to do before you have to exit out of here. But once I've done that, in my layer properties manager, you see like before, I had, let's see in here. Yep, that's XREF. Let me pull that out completely and pull up that tree. So in here, before you have that ability to basically show any layer properties that you change. So if I change something in this base, say change this red to a white, it's now going to highlight it. And that was something that happened in 2018. But now what we have in here, if I just actually, I might have to happen when I, let me just open up one other thing because it doesn't appear to be showing right here.
Yeah, it's weird how it's not showing your all XREF layers. I
Exactly,
wonder if
it
it
did.
maybe just needs to reopen or something, you're right.
I'm thinking it might just need to reopen. I did have one in here that was really easy to grab. Yeah, I think this is, or actually, bear with me, guys. I know exactly where I'll find one that definitely shows it.
I
Here we
love
go.
the folder named Topics Not Developed. I want to know what's in there.
There we go. Okay, so I did the same thing over here in this drawing. And as you can see, I've done a lot of overrides in here as well. You can see my XREF in here. If I were to XREF another one in here, all of these are kind of all over the place. I have to keep going back and forth to find them all. I now have this great handy XREF overrides area right here. Shows them all. I can grab them. I can grab a few of them. I can right click and go to reset my XREF layer properties for just the selected layers. All properties, maybe just the freeze variable, maybe just the color. So it's a lot easier to manage in 2019. That's one thing. The rest of the items that improved in 2019 are mostly graphics related, including speed improvements and high DPI monitor improvements, 4K monitors. We showed this webinar at a lower DPI for ease of recording. So unfortunately, I can't show you those today, and they're a little hard to show anyways. But beyond that, we also did one other really big thing, which is if you go into your start menu when you install FX Cad 2019, and this is 2019 only, you're going to see in here some LAFX templates. And that will be if you start a new drawing as well. This is your new templates folder. You just have your straight acad.dwt, ACAD ISO if you want to start from those, or maybe test something out in a new drawing, blank drawing. But we also have these already preset to the units you want to use, and with the page sizes that you want to use as well as title blocks that actually work. So I can kind of go in here. I can do that FXREF, grab, let's go to my desktop, desktop, and go down to, let's go to my tester metric. Let's see, I am going to go with, sorry, AutoCAD, there we go. And I'm actually just going to grab this and actually import this into this drawing. There we go, it's in meters, the path is full. It doesn't have relative right now because I haven't saved this drawing yet. I can go between these. But once this is in, if this were a base, I could easily now go into my sheet, double click, kind of center it up, go into FX or Land FX, grab that scale, scale this viewport, set that active viewport scale. That viewport is now 1 to 250. And I can actually even now go to, if we go to FX site, grab some discipline graphics, grab a north scale, maybe a north arrow over here, and maybe if we go over and grab a scale bar, maybe the scale bar over here, it's already set to the right scale. Very quickly, I have a title block and a drawing. So if you're new to AutoCAD, this is major for you. This is a really, I get a lot of calls from people trying to figure out where to start, and we've done a lot of webinars. And from those, we decided that one of the biggest stumbling blocks that stops people from getting into the nitty-gritty of the plan is being able to print it at scale. So that's what these templates are all about, is being able to take, if you're going right out of school and you're starting your own business and you're starting with a CAD platform and you need to get going right away to start making a profit for your company, this is really going to help you out. Or if you're still struggling and going from hand drafting, even we still get some people coming from hand drafting going into CAD, this is a much lower barrier, a much shorter learning curve having this available, because scale is it's a whole thing that becomes a lot easier once you have this, and it has some easy instructions on how to use this properly. And you get some layers in here, and it's actually really easy to edit. You can just block edit this for the regular stuff that goes page to page. It's a block reference, so it can copy along, and it has a few attributes in here so that you can actually go in and just say this page in particular is 1 to 250, and that's going to update in here. So that's about all the really cool stuff that we had. So you know about the amazing support, but recap of basically everything we've covered today. Why is FX Cad 2019 worth it? Either upgrading, moving from CAD, or moving from something else. One, you're going to use the same version as I'm using, your support is using. So it's going to be really easy. All of our videos and documentation pages with screenshots show this version. So it's going to be a lot easier to kind of learn and move along with. It's going to lower your office software budget by a lot, depending on what you're using right now. And you can even mix and match and go half and half Civil, half FX Cad, or half AutoCAD and half FX Cad. That'll work as well. You know that it works with land effects, and it actually has to work with land effects like we discussed. It's also a very much easier installation, as I showed, so it's not really a big deal in terms of upgrading or moving over to this. It does what you need, it has the tools you need, and pretty much nothing more. So it's a much simpler interface. It's integrated with the land effects tools, and it's just easier to learn CAD with. And that, in a nutshell, is FX Cad 2019. So let's see if anybody has any questions. If you do, I really do encourage you to go over to that Q&A box, and we can address those right now.
Yeah, definitely get your questions in. We got a few more minutes here. Happy to answer anything. I was gonna say I could fill some dead air waiting for any questions to roll in by mentioning anything, but I think you literally addressed everything that I can think of saying. So I can see why maybe no one has any questions. They're like, yeah, kind of summed it up. So,
well, I could kind of go through this a bit more if you want. I mean, this is all great. You can kind of make copies of this, move or copy these layouts. And then use those tools that Land Effects has, like the tool where you can actually have the system change the layout names as you kind of name them, and they go into your project manager once you set a project, and kind of keep track of layouts. It gets really exciting once you actually kind of go into it.
Exactly. We did get one question. Well, actually, unfortunately, it's not a question, it's a comment, but that's fine. That's fine. But Julie was just very excited about the cleanup functions, which is very true. I mean, just very much of us having our thumb on the pulse of real world issues that we hover about a third of all of our tech support tickets every day are solved by just simply drawing cleanup. So of course people come in saying, I can't generate a schedule, which of course you can imagine is a very frightening thing, frightening moment. And you're very glad to be able to call someone when you can't generate a schedule. But often we will say, yeah, it looks like your drawing needs to be cleaned. And then once it's cleaned, the schedule generates fine. So it's a great combination of having those buttons there in the ribbon, having the phone-based support, is a kind of a good 1-2 punch, and so that's very nice to have those there. Similarly, like we mentioned, with having the express tools there throughout the ribbon, we really have spent literally months just installing and reinstalling this AutoCAD engine over and over again, of trying different ribbon layouts, of analyzing every little button. I know Amanda can certainly attest to the multiple revisions that she shows me, and then I say, no, move this one, let's try something else. And so there's some good ones. We have some good little I would say arguments, but I like, she makes her case for something and I'm like, you got a good point. And then like the properties panel was a great example of that. We went back and forth on those properties drop downs, and finally decided, wait a minute, what if it's just a separate panel that you can turn off? So that way the people who do want those drop-down boxes, myself, I think they're silly, but Amanda made a great point of, they gotta be there. What if we just do that to them? So that was just a great example of us being solely focused on making AutoCAD a better experience, a more usable experience from the perspective of a landscape architect. And I'd certainly like to think it just gets better every year. This is 8 years in, and we're not slowing down or stopping.
No. Oh, I think that's pretty much everything that we need to cover. And thank you everybody for bearing with me during my raspy voice session. But thanks very much. And I hope you're all as excited as I am about FXCAD 2019.